feel free, if you have any ideas about bringing value to this chain, to join up and give your ideas and potentially be paid for it. And as well as the note of being, as well as teaching people that you know what you're talking about in the space, and maybe getting a little bit of attention for what you do know and what you do in the space. Now, with that said, Xanox from Rudex, are you able to step up to the plate?
Yeah, sure, no problem. As you know, my name's Peter, but you all know me as Xanox, and I'm from the Rudex team. Actually, hopefully, our own Dima is going to join us. He has currently some troubles connecting to the Mumble, but whatever. If he's here, he may be going to say a couple of words, but if not, I'll have to do it alone. Anyway, as you heard from the State of the Network transcript, last week we've launched, well, this week we've launched the public gateways with 0% trading fees, and those are possible by running witnesses on BitShares, on Steam, on Muse, and what do we have? And on Golas. So we currently have those gateways for. Oh, and also on PeerPlays. Yeah. So we have a PeerPlays, Golas, Steam, and Muse gateways into the BitShares network that all have 0% market fees, and that is possible by running witnesses on all those networks, and your votes for our witness help us support that kind of gateways. And since we have a small team and don't have and our biggest costs are running the servers, it's possible to do that. We also don't have any kind of investors to that we have a responsibility to show profit for, so we're able to keep those fees that low. And that's I'm saying this because recently quite a few people were saying, like, are you guys planning to launch your own token so we could invest in you? And so I have to answer this repeatedly, and I wanted to make clear for everyone that we are not planning on doing anything of the sort, because that would force us to raise the trading fees, and we don't want to do that. We feel that this kind of gateways are a good effort to raise the liquidity on the DEX, so you can use them to quickly shift your funds from say Steam into PeerPlays, or from BitShares to Muse or whatever. Next up, I'd like to talk about our plans. We are planning to add an Ethereum node, so we will be able to list ERC tokens. Our most important token that everyone is asking about is a token for EOS, and I'm not sure on the particulars because Ethereum nodes are a bit different than graphene-based ones, so we're currently still in the research. We are tinkering with one, so I'm not sure on the ETA for that, but hopefully we'll be able to have 0% on the EOS, but it's possibly going to be with some sort of withdrawal fee, so that the gas prices are paid by. And once we finish all that, we plan to add some other gateways for POS-based coins. Probably the most important of them is Gridcoin, and we've been talking with the Gridcoin community about that. But that's sometime in the future. We also hope to at some point have the gateways for all the private privacy-centric blockchains like Monero and Dash and Zcash and whatever else. Hopefully that's going to coincide with deployment of stealth, so you could transfer your funds in and out anonymously if it's something that you're interested in. Also, I've applied for a visa to go to Steamfest, and if that's going to be given to me in timely manner, I'm going to do a presentation there. Well, if you have any questions, that's probably a good time to ask them. And maybe Dima has something to say. He has arrived.
Feel free to speak up, guys. I definitely have things, but I'll hold on until everybody else says something if they need to.
Yeah, I think the Gridcoin token would be awesome in the future. I'm looking forward to any such plans.
Good question.
Yeah, sure.
And I just want to compliment the Rudix team on having these gateway available for all of these tokens. I mean, I think that's really valuable for the users and for the DEX as a whole.
One of the things you can help us with, if you vote for our witness on Steam, it's going to be really great. We are currently somewhere in top 70, and we've been running Steam Witness since I think March or early April, something like that.
And you guys are also planning on an EOS one as well, correct?
Yeah, I said that.
Oh, I thought I heard you say F. I'm sorry.
I said that we'll need an other node so we can run ERC20 tokens, because that's
that's where the F came in.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, and real quick, there is one discussion that we've had within BitShares a little bit in these Hangouts, and also on GitHub there are proposals for BSIPs, and those are BitShares Improvement projects for those who are not familiar with the term. And these BSIPs, one of them, there is a BSIP that talks a little bit about something called trustless gateways. Have you guys thought or considered the potential for making these gateways trustless at some point?
Actually, for some of the gateways, it would be possible. We are currently looking into using the multi-sig schemes to create to enable peer-to-peer gateways. So you could have something like local bitcoins, but and we also have a team for that, and possibly we are going to start a worker. So if no one beats us to that, if you know the Steam blockchain has an escrow feature. Using multisig to create such type of gateway would be a little bit clunky. But if escrow functionality is backported from Steam, it would be possible to do something like that. And so you would be able to exchange trustless tokens like BitShares or BitUSD or whatever other bit assets for real asset or for fiat or whatever, and that would expand the functionality by a lot. As far as trustless gateways with other chains, it really depends on the atomic swap or whatever other functionality is required for that. I don't think that it's on our radar right now, but if it becomes possible, that's what we're going to do.
Cool. And you guys said that you're planning on a witness to pay for these. Have you considered if that, whether or not that happens, is always, kind of something that we can't guarantee, but there's other options in addition to that, like worker proposals. Have you guys considered the potential to maybe be able to get some funding from that as well?
Well, the thing is, we have producing witnesses on peer plays, on BitShares, on Muse, and we also have a witness that's close to the top 19 on Golas, and hopefully that's why I'm here and why I'm going to travel to Steamfest if I'm able to raise awareness about our witness, because I think that we're doing quite a bit for Steam blockchain and Graphene in general to be considered good enough for something maybe close to top 30 in Steam witness. But it doesn't really matter, because the payment that we receive is enough to cover our costs and our time. But with the higher right now, the most high-priced tokens of all those 5 blockchains is Steam, and having funding from Steam blockchain would allow us to move a lot quicker in what we're doing. But it's kind of up to community. We are not in real hurry. If we we're doing this at the pace that's comfortable for us, and having more funding would allow us to move quicker while still remaining at a comfortable pace, something like that.
And you guys currently have witnesses that are in all of these chains, and which ones need to be voted in and which ones are already voted in?
We are not in the top on Golas. We are, I think, number 20. So it's just 1 or 2% of the stake, and will be in. But it still allows us to. It's still enough to run this infrastructure on Golas. But on Steam, we are way down, and currently producing maybe 1 or I don't know 3 blocks a day. So votes on Steam would help us a lot. The thing is, as far as I understand, the witness thing on Steam is a lot of people expect a lot of effort put into advertising your what are you doing for Steam, and we've been keeping somewhat a low profile because we are. If you want to see what we're doing, we are apart from all the technical things, we're also translating all the interesting articles, Steam documentation, all of the official posts and stuff like that in Russian to raise awareness about it. And we've been doing that since well for a year now, I think. Yeah, we started last September. Yeah, we have 2 accounts, Steam blog, where we post all things Steam related, and I think dance articles, and we have blockchain where we post everything else. And also, a lot of people asked about having one place to see our English updates, because if while we post them on blockchain, they can drown in the Russian language posts, which we post regularly. So we are going to start restreaming them to our Rudex account, and you could subscribe to that and see all our announcements and reports and whatever else we are posting in English there.
Yeah, I wanted to thank you both for having the English versions of your articles, and also, if I'm not mistaken, you've also been translating certain other posts, such as the BitShares State of the Network report into Russian, I believe. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're doing that as well, and we really appreciate Steam. Steam Power or
yes, that's right.
Yeah, who's doing all the job in writing them up. It's quite a bit of work. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for joining up. I have a few more questions, but I think that maybe if you guys would like to drop by on occasion, we can continue these questions and.
Yeah, sure. And I think I'm going to be speaking in our next, in the whale tank thing, so you could probably ask them there.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for everything you guys are doing. I know you guys are one of the decks. The Russian, the Rudex, is another dex another front end that is actually out there in Russia for the Russian people, and anybody I'm sure around that area who speaks the language or knows the language to be able to access and utilize. It's just another opportunity to use BitShares outside of BitShares.org and OpenLedger. So it's always nice to have other decks or other actors in this space that are helping the BitShares network grow and offering our services through their own front ends. So, and I know that you guys did a lot of custom stuff for your user interface, correct?
Well, not a lot of custom stuff, but whatever we are doing, we're always sending that upstream once it's tested enough, and we're also posting it into our public repositories, so you could use any tool that we develop yourself, because we believe that if there are more gateways and if there are more interfaces into BitShares, it is much better for the BitShares, and we're really looking and hope that BitSpark and all other people working on looking into using BitShares for doing their business succeed. So.
Well, we appreciate it, man, because the fact of the matter is that a lot of people can step up and do these things if they want to, but the people who are here and the people who are doing things like you guys, there's a small part of the population who either can or chooses to do so, to be able to do all these things and come on to let everybody know what's going on and keep everybody updated. So it's very helpful for us, and I look forward to supporting you. As soon as I find your witness on Steam, I promise I will update it, but I've had a problem finding it, so I'll have to ask you guys behind the scenes again, because I didn't see it under blockchain. How do people upvote your witnesses if they would like to?
We usually have a witness called blockchain on. I think it's there's one on Steam, there's one on Golas. I think Dima would correct me in the chat about that. I think in PurePlays and in Muse it's also a blockchain, but on BitShares it's BLCKCHMD. Like what it says in Dima's username, and you can vote for that.
And that is blockchain, BLOCKCHAIN as in November, ED as in Delta.
Yeah.
Blockchain, right, well, thank you very much.
And
Sounds good. Well, thank you, and we look forward to hearing more updates from you in the future. These 0% fee gateways are going to be an amazing on-ramp into the BitShares ecosystem, so thank you also for that. Now, with that said, everybody, I appreciate everything that you are all doing. I want you to just consider taking a moment whenever you see our Hangout posts to re-steam and share them on social media and other channels where BitShares needs to go and talk to people, and we need to show people that we're alive. All the people here, you all have your own social networks and your own channels that you're members of. Together, that means we have a heck of a lot of reach. So I just want to take a quick moment before we move on to say we actually can do a lot of stuff together if we recognize that together we have a huge network and we have a huge reach into places that we can get these things out to people. So please just consider doing that, and please consider potentially upvoting us as well on Steam to give us some funds to keep on building some cool things behind the scenes. Now, with that said, I want to just say thank you to Xanox. I want to thank Talkinator for being next and doing what he always does, which is provide us with some very valuable information with respect to the fees and number of operations and transactions that are going on in the network, and to break down some of those details today. Talkinator.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'm reporting now on the collected fees report for August of 2017. A link of it is also available on my page on Steemit, and where you can download the full report. As a summary, during the month of August, 0.8 million BTS were collected for almost 9 million operations. And those 9 million operations were within approximately 3 million transactions. Out of all of those operations, slightly lower than half were due to market orders that were placed. And then a little bit less than that, around 43%, were due to actually market order cancellations. So a lot of that is people placing an order, waiting to see if it's filled. And if it's not completely filled, then they cancel the order. So that is actually taking up approximately, approximately 95%, 90% of all the operations that are occurring on the network. However, those only produce around 8% of the fees that are collected. And that is simply the nature of the fee schedule that is available for the various operations. So in contrast, if we actually break it down by which operations are producing the most fees, it turns out, once again, that our leading operation for the month of August was asset creation. And that produced 70% of all the fees that were collected. So the way to think about that, if you combine that with the 0.8 million, if you take the 0.8 million BTS and multiply that by 70%, that is what was led to the due to asset creations. And then following that much lower is account upgrades at 17%. And then we fall into kind of the single digit operations. So once again, the asset creations are producing the bulk of the fees that are collected. And then just as a quick recap, approximately out of all of those fees, approximately, or maybe exactly, I still have to just confirm it, but approximately 20% of all of those fees are actually what are going and being collected into the reserve pool. And the rest is going to referrers and what was the other category?
Registers?
Yes, thank you. So that is the quick summary for the month of August, and can take any questions if anyone has.
Before we start questions, I would say, it would be interesting, and I'm just thinking, because as you keep posting these, because you're doing this consistently now, it'd be really cool to see a rundown of a little bit more over the history kind of thing, like a graph or something that over time that kind of tracks these stats and how they change, so we can kind of see visually. Maybe we could put something behind getting a team to use your stats and put something like that together.
Sure. So currently the report has two plots, and I'll just mention them quickly, and so that we can see what other possible plots might be of interest. The first plot that we have over time is from October of 2015 through the latest month. There's a plot of the fees paid in BTS. The second plot, also from October 2015 to the latest month, are the quantity of transactions and operations. But I think maybe along the lines of what you're thinking, perhaps, is, well, maybe what is what is the profile of a particular operation, maybe asset creation or something like that. Is that maybe what you're thinking about?
Yeah, because I look at these and I see the operation types, the breakdowns for the percentage of BTS, and I think each of these, it says, for instance, asset creation is 69% of the total BTS. But I kind of find myself thinking, as this platform evolves and as new features are added and various things like that, we're hopefully going to see some of these other things, some of these other ways of earning, bringing in fees, becoming a little bit bigger. So I'd kind of like to, I find myself thinking that this type of, if we could find like a means of providing kind of a visualization of how it is, like maybe asset creation this week is at 69% of them, but next week it's 45%, and we see that there's a change in account upgrades, or preferably limit order creates and stuff like that, right? And maybe if we could plot that out, so we could actually show that, we could actually kind of say, okay, it looks like we need to improve or increase the limit order creation because we believe that it should be a lot more of the fee pool than asset creation. You know what I mean? And if we could show that to people, as opposed to, like, because let's face it, visualization for people is very beneficial, especially when it's got the numbers beside it, so you can see the numbers and you can also see the visualization. And I think it would provide us a little bit, provides us a little bit of a window into whether what we're doing kind of works. And, if, let's say, we set goals for certain things to be a little bit higher, we think that asset creation shouldn't be the top one, or, we could kind of have initiatives to improve the other ones that we think might be lagging. If we see it in visualization and we see this and we go, okay, well, I didn't know that that was a problem or something that we need to work on. Let's try to work on it. Let's see if it changes over time as we are working on it, just to have that feedback. And I think this is very valuable. The data that you collect is extremely valuable, and we haven't had a whole lot of it for a while, I mean, we've had it. We just haven't had somebody like you doing this openly for a long time in our history to show this. So I greatly appreciate it.
Sure.
Do you guys have any thoughts about the asset creation being the top one? Do you guys think that's perfectly natural? Where do you guys stand on it? I personally think it's kind of natural because we're still in the phase of people creating assets and wanting to start learning to trade them. And I think that once we do some of those things and we get it so those people can start trading them more and, making it easier for people, we might see these other things go up and increase as well.
I think that if we have more tools that allow people usage of their assets in some ways, like you have this token, you send it, and it does something. We'll have more of that, and once we do, hopefully account creation and account upgrades are going to improve to catch up with that.
Well, upgrades would be a nice one to see happening because it seems like it's at a relatively respectable amount at 17%, though. I mean, it's the number 2 of the ones that Taco has listed.
Yeah, and if you look at all time, which is on page 2 of the report, account upgrades throughout the entire history of BitShares 2.0 is 25% of the fees that are collected.
Of all time.
Right.
I think about what can be also added to this report, especially combined with graphics plotting. If the data about daily volume is collected and displayed as a graph, it would be really, really great as well.
Yeah. It could be a lot
like a volume of the whole that's a little tricky, but I see what you mean. It would be like a volume denominated in some unit, maybe BTS.
The thing is, as far as I know, CryptoFresh has it shows daily volume. You could probably capture that daily at a certain time, always the same time, and then it would allow you to graph. It shows it in USD, but I'm not really sure how it calculates that.
Okay.
If you want help putting graphs together, I volunteer.
Ooh.
I think it's a good idea.
Well,
got it. Thank you.
Want to help the Taco? I will gladly
I want to help
compensate you for your work.
I'll just reach out to you on Discord, I guess.
Sounds good.
You will connect. Yep.
All right, cool.
Does that sound good for you, Taco? I mean, if you can use help.
Yeah, I think yes, it'll be worth discussing. I think there's there are a couple of technical issues to figure out, but yeah, it'll be good to work that out. It'll be valuable.
Thanks for volunteering.
Yeah, just if you need me.
That's one of the valuable things about these hangouts is the people who are able to step up and help people like Taco. And I want to thank Taco for stepping up and doing this every week because it does take time. It takes time to give a crap about doing this stuff. And let's face it, the more people who post information about what's going on within the space, the more that people are going to see our branding, at the very least. right? And over time, seeing that branding and seeing the BitShares logo and the name there, and accompanying data, it just makes it look and represents us in a way that makes people take it seriously and take us seriously. So I can't give enough thanks for this one either. These are valuable, very valuable pieces of information, and especially the visualization, because let's face it, most people these days are visual. And I think maybe it's the YouTube generation or whatever, but I don't know how many people enjoy reading a bunch of books anymore. It seems like it's more give us the information as quickly as possible, a rundown maybe via text, but also give us some images or a video that shows us. And this is a great start, and I really want to say thank you, and I hope that everybody considers taking the time to share what Taco and them are doing and upvote what all of the gentlemen or the ladies and gentlemen who join up here to participate, what they post. Share it, upvote it, make comments if you can, and let people know about what we're doing. These are perfect ways of bringing people in. Hey, did you know this? I'm just going to send you this and show you this about BitShares. Or, oh, people talk about BitShares being dead. Well, this is a great place to show that it's not dead. Here's our fees collected, and I just want to let you know at the same time we have more activity than Bitcoin. These are the opportunities to be able to step up and say these things and let people know and actually provide something of value. So thank you very much, Taco, for providing it.
My pleasure.
Now with that said, your Hertz algorithmic smart asset.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So if you've not heard about Hertz, it was something I've been doing the last couple months. It's a market pegged asset, but it's also known as a algorithm based asset. So it's basically just a market pegged asset which has a formula which modifies the price feed in a predictable manner, right? So with Hertz, it's we oscillate the price feed. Currently, the amplitude is set to 50%, so it goes from $1 to $1.50 back to $1, then down to half a dollar, basically, right? And this is predictable, and it will go on forever, right? So it's a large. It creates periods of buying and selling pressure, as well as like peak buy, peak settle, as well as it's pretty interesting. I recreated a thorough explanation in my RSVP, which I'd implore you to read because it's quite a mouthful. But just some updates with regards to the Hertz token. So a couple months ago, I requested that Wacow and Xerox, implement Hertz in their price feed scripts. However, they are very busy individuals. So, Wacow is working on several different things like pure plays, witnesses and stuff. Xerox got like 50 different, projects and libraries, so really it was up to myself to implement it, which ultimately was the case in the first place. So I've implemented an initial version of the Hertz price script on Wacow's BTS tools and Xerox BitShares price feed repos. So they're currently pure in a pull request state. They do need peer reviewed. I've not actually ran them fully because I've not got enough computing power for them. However, I did fork the Hero price feed scripts, and I changed them for Hertz. And those are ones you can just run locally without any problems. And that's one I'm most confident about currently. So some other information. I've created a Hertz calculator spreadsheet so you can see, okay, if I earned like $1,000 and, continue like buying and settling every month, how much will I make in a year's time? You can figure that out, as well as how much you can make from also shorting it into existence, which you can also change like the amplitude of the Hertz, sine wave. So because we need to find an appropriate amplitude. 50% I think might be too volatile in that I chucked it into the calculator, this Excel spreadsheet, and it was like, after 2 years, you will be worth 80 billion. It's like, I don't think that's accurate. So maybe a wee bit lower would be sensible for an initial Hertz asset, and then once it's established itself as something that actually works, we could, create a secondary one that's like, 50%, or something. But with regards to the next areas of that I need to investigate regarding Hertz, where areas which I think may be problems are potentially differences between time and pendulum Python packages and their Unix timestamp output. This is a low risk, really low. Like even if it's like, if it's a few seconds or milliseconds, whatever, out, then it doesn't make any difference. Another issue is the impact of the price feed producers time zone on the output Unix timestamps. I do think this would be an issue, like really likely to occur. However, a 24-hour max price feed difference with a 50% amplitude is like, less than 2 cents. So it wouldn't create like a global settlement event if someone was 24 hours out. So I'll have to check the time and also convert to UTC to get rid of that, risk, as well as the to-do list, what I've got to do next. So I've got to investigate those areas of potential issues. I've got to create a Hertz website, explaining the theory, kind of ELI 5, and create a price feed visualization. We've got to select an optimal amplitude. As I mentioned before, 50% might be a bit too extreme to begin with. And I've got to continue learning Python to improve the scripts and, relevant to my studies. This is some other quick updates regarding my BitShares activity across multiple repos. I created a pull request even on the BitShares UI to upgrade the Gridcoin logo. It's switched everywhere else apart from within the client, but that's coming soon. I created a pull request on the Python BitShares repo to uplift the PY crypto requirement because it's end of life. It's not updated in like 3 years and I couldn't install it at all. It's uplifting it to the PY Crypto Dome package. So that's something that does need investigated a wee bit, and that would be required to actually run the Hero based price feed script. I've forked it from Hero. That's what I meant. I've also created a couple Hero price feed script issues on the Hero, repo regarding the license. They've not got a license, so I'm not sure the legality of me hosting, the forked version, which I'm most confident about. It's the one I like the most. And I've also spotted a Hero script bug in that. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to some feedback on that one soon. I've also requested the ability to add or remove private price feed publishers for a market pegged asset within the BitShares UI repo. So currently, like the documentation states that you can select either a committee or witnesses to, provide price feeds, right? But Hero came along and they had implemented private price feed publishers just through, the Python BitShares toolkit, and if that's possible through Python, we should make it possible through the UI. I think it's pretty cool if that would be implemented. And the W Butler guy, he was quite enthusiastic about the idea as well. Finally, I reported an issue or a bug in Wacoo's BTS tool Hero price feed script regarding a 25% difference in the maintenance collateral ratio between BTS tools and other Hero price feed scripts. So that's just something I stumbled across when I was implementing, my Hertz scripts. So that's all I had to say. Does anyone have any questions regarding Hertz, Hero, price feed scripts, algorithm-based assets?
Well, regarding the price feeds and Bill Butler, he said he was interested in it. Was he saying that he might have interest in helping work with it, or was it something where he was saying, "Yeah, I'm it's an interesting topic," and kind of that was as far as it went, or?
Yeah, we basically went back and forth figuring out exactly what I meant, and then he said, okay, that does make sense. Just, basically through the UI, adding the private, accounts in an array and then publishing it to the network. So it's not been given like a priority or an amount of hours next to it. So it's like kind of in the pipeline.
So he is interested in doing it though.
Yeah.
Did he say that it might require extra funding or anything that we should consider?
No, I'm pretty sure it could fall within the current funding. They've got the system where if you put up an issue on the BitShares UI repo, they'll go through it and be like, okay, yeah, that's a good idea, that's a bug fix, and they'll put like a time next to it, and then someone can claim that, and they do the work, they submit it, and if it gets merged in, then they get paid for that, like that 1 hours, from the currently active worker proposal. Through the BitShares Foundation.
That's great. So it's good to hear because, and this is a kind of I know it's not directly related, but it is to a large degree to me because you're very active on the GitHub. I know because I follow it and I get emails whenever you post, and all of you guys post. Whenever all of you guys post, I get emails. But for a long time, one of the issues was really leveraging our funding and the opportunity to provide the funding to people who do add a lot of activity to our network via the GitHub platform, and writing up code and talking about you don't necessarily even have to write code, things like BSIPs, and talking about these various things that need to be added and fixed and changed. The discussion itself is work. So it's cool to see that there are people who are able to participate in over there, and maybe earn something from providing something of value to everybody.
Yeah, certainly. There has been the meme or the myth of the worker proposals not being a working system, that no one has ever been paid from it. This stemming from like Bytemaster not being able to be paid primarily from a political cause. Reasons why he wasn't getting his worker proposals pushed through. But now, I mean, I've seen in the last couple months at least like 3 go through, and there was a problem where we had a backlog of the UI issues, but now I've added like maybe 10 issues to the UI, and at least 4 of them have already been completed and fixed. So it's really fast, and people are doing work on the GitHub repo every day. It's really cool to see.
Yes, it is, and it's another part of that iceberg, right? That we don't see. We only see the tip of it. We don't see everything that's going on below the surface. So it's nice to have people like you who can join up and tell everybody.
Yeah, totally.
Does anybody have any questions or comments regarding this?
Yeah, I had a question about with the parameters both for amplitude and then also for the frequency of the oscillation. There's lots, there's infinite flexibility there. And I guess my question is, let's say you have the script and you're confident with the script. And then I'm just thinking, what's a wise way to proceed in terms of, which curves to put out there and have an asset for there? Because I don't know if any thoughts you have.
Well, I mean, we could make it, if you make the amplitude quite small and the frequency quite high, as long as you had, high frequency price feeds being published, the minimum time gap is like the 3 seconds, basically every block. So you have to account for that. I think it'd probably be smart to go small at the beginning, like, maybe 20% max amplitude, and the frequency being a month. That's the current state. I referenced the Unix timestamp for the Genesis block, and then we basically take the. I can't quite remember the mathematical term for it, but figure out where we are currently in the in the sine wave, and then make the
yes.
Yeah. So I think what would be quite interesting would be to create one that's it's got a phase of like 2 weeks ahead. So if you were currently holding Hertz and it was going down, you could switch it for Hertz B, and that's immediately going up, just to cancel each other out. And that could be an interesting experiment. I think the higher the amplitude, the more risky it is, as well as we could potentially implement caps. So we cut off the top and the bottom of the sine waves so as to create a stable period. That could be an interesting concept.
Right.
And I think the hero forked price feed gives a lot more flexibility for implementing these more complex sine waves and formulas or algorithms or whatever, compared to BTS tools and Xerox BitShares price feed repo, because they require that you input just a single line within a YAML text file, whereas with the using the hero forked, basically just Python BitShares script, you can use 1,000 lines if you wanted to make it really complex.
Yeah, that's right.
But I mean, with regards to these values, for the frequency, for the amplitude, I've not included the frequency in the Hertz calculator. It's just a spreadsheet. It's currently fixed at a month, but you can try out the amplitudes and what you think would be suitable. I'd appreciate input on that, in future Hertz Steemit threads.
Yeah, and also I liked your discussion about in the related post that you were talking about, just in general how somebody might want to use this. The pros and cons about buying at the high and the lows and so on. That was a helpful discussion.
Yeah. Okay. So just in the that's very on topic to the Hertz explanation in my the Steemit thread, but the basic TLDR is that when you're say it's at the peak, why would you buy at 150? Well, that would be the point of peak sell pressure. So people would be shorting, trying to get there's $150 worth of Hertz to then buy back at $0.50, right? We're destroying debt in the downtrend. So if you were wanting to jump out of BTS at a far greater value than what's capable in BitUSD, with Hertz, you could potentially do it in the hundreds of thousands or millions range, compared to, BitUSD, where it doesn't have liquidity at the point of, the settlement price to those sums. Maybe if you're lucky, it's like in the 5-figure range. Why would you buy at the bottom? You'd buy at the bottom because obviously it's going to go up to 150, and then you can just settle it at the top. You don't have to worry about selling it at the top. You don't need to join the people who are shorting it and selling it. You just need to settle, and you're pretty much guaranteed to get your $1 profit for 50 cents. Why would you sell it at the bottom? It's the moment of peak buy pressure. So that's you could it's similar to the you'd be able to short a lot more if you think. A terrible explanation. I'm sorry, I'm actually butchering this. I should be reading from the explanation. But do you have any more specific questions?
No, not more specific. My one suggestion, at least for the way that I think what you've highlighted is helpful from the perspective of a user who wants to buy or sell the asset that has already been borrowed into existence. I think personally, it would also be helpful to have a separate but related discussion, which is when might somebody want to borrow it into existence and possibly settle it?
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, if you were to borrow it in existence and at the top and then settle at the bottom, you've destroyed, the amplitude's worth of debt. So if you go down from like 150 and then settle it, like, buy back your debt at 50 cents, then you've made a profit on the way down. Yeah.
So you're right. So from the perspectives of the people who are going to, bringing the asset into existence, what are the risks and concerns that they should be thinking about?
Well, okay, if you were to lend it into existence at 50 cents, yeah, and then it's increasing, so your collateral is going to decrease as it increases up from like 50 cents to 150. If you were to combine that with BitShares going up in value, or that could further cause your collateral to be insufficient, and force settle you, basically. So you need to take into account your collateral if you are doing shorting into existence.
Right. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, I do need to ELI5 all of this, basically make it like a single line on each point, because it is a wall of text,
Yeah, but it's necessary with something as complicated as this.
Yeah, true.
Well, I will ask one question if you don't mind before we move forward. Are there any kinds of data that you think that the community could help gather from these experiments? Because obviously, right, whenever we're doing experiments, we want to gather some useful data of some sort. Because that's one of the very real value propositions of experiments. That's how we, assess these things. So what do you think are some of the most important data points that we could look at from these experiments, and how we might be able to use them? Or have you kind of thought about more just the technical of getting it done at this point? You don't have those all lined up, or where does that stand?
Yeah, I'm most focused on the implementation at this point, the
Yeah.
programming. However, there are some, interesting points in the sine wave which would be worth analyzing. Like at the peak, value, if people are shorting are people going to be able to short enough into existence to meet up with people settling it? If more people are settling it, then shorting it into existence would be potentially close to like a global settlement event. How is BSIP 18 going to deter the risk of a global settlement, i.e. a black swan? I do need to go through BSIP 18 and thoroughly understand what the consequences are. Currently it is a bit of a wall of text itself, as well as how another thing that'd be worth monitoring is how the trading volume of the Hertz token compares to the primary market pegged assets right now. If people would use it more than BitUSD, if it would massively increase the trading activity in the DEX.
Well, this is the stuff that really makes me interested. So where we're going to grab this data and what we're going to do with it will be a very good opportunity for us to, I think, not only learn about what you're doing, but also to teach people the various things that are cool about what we're doing and the project that is BitShares, right? Because let's face it, getting down and dirty and playing with this stuff is some of the most important stuff you could do to actually learn.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm not a Python wizard, it's only like 10 different lines that I've modified slightly to enable this algorithm based asset. And once we've got one implementation, it's just a matter of, if you want to create your own Hertz token, changing the amplitude, the frequency, the phase, that's it. Maybe even the sine wave to a different formula if you were, making it a bit more complex. But this may create more algorithm based assets, like kind of spin-offs. There's nothing stopping anyone from doing so.
Sure. Well, I want to thank you guys all for joining up. We are around the time where we normally close these up. So if there's anything, is there anything else that anybody would like to say before I give the closing statements? Okay, well, if there is not, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ask everybody to consider checking out T. Sujimoto's latest documentation work. She is working on this, and I'm going to give you yet another link real quick before I move forward.
I've got something to ask regarding documentation.
Sure. Please consider
if
supporting these.
If a coin wants to get listed on the DEX, how do they do it? Who do they contact? Or what's the process?
It's a good question. You mean to get their coin listed as far as like through a gateway?
That's as far as I can go. I don't know how it works beyond, but like say I reach out to a community who is looking for decentralized the exchange. How do they get listed?
Well, personally, I would say you got the Rudex people here with blockchain, and they have those zero fee gateways. So depending on the value proposition for the gateways and that offer these types of things, that's one means. Open Ledger, another means, as they are a gateway as well. but it would probably go through them or the coin itself. And this is what I would love to see. This is personally, this is my favorite. Is if you could have your own white labeled DEX for your community. You provide the gateway for your coin, and now it trades against all coins on BitShares, or all coins on BitShares that the community itself might vote to have them traded against their coin. So you could literally have it where communities are able to trade their coin as a primary, as one of the primary coins against everything else on the DEX, and kind of white label it that way. But in any of these cases, you create the asset on the exchange, which is actually pretty much, that's the easiest part, right? But then you have to have a gateway service where it actually can be transferred, and you receive the tokens in another wallet that's outside of the BitShares ecosystem. Does that make any sense?
Sort of.
We'll say it this way.
I mean, I don't expect to understand it all right now.
Sure, I'll just make it as simple as possible. You can make it on the DEX. You can make a coin, but until you back it, and with a gateway or something where people can get rid of, can take that coin and they can transfer it to their coin's wallet, right? I can't do that directly from BitShares unless there's a gateway, or unless we have a wallet that's white labeled that doesn't make them leave the BitShares ecosystem. When they leave the BitShares ecosystem, you kind of have to have a gateway, a doorkeeper who kind of says, okay, here's the UIA that you've given me. In return for the UIA, I'm going to open up my safe and I'm going to give you one of the tokens that this represents. I'm going to send it to your email or, whatever. Does that make a little bit more sense?
Yeah, it does.
Trying to make it visual.
You're doing good. I'm getting it. They just posted a link that I'm going to read. Seems pretty helpful.
And thank you, Ken, for posting the link. And feel free, anybody, to during these Hangouts to step up if you have a better explanation than I do. I know a decent bit because I've been here so dang long, but I do not, by any stretch of the imagination, know everything. And a lot of you guys are experts in a lot of your respective areas and can give a lot of information and a lot of valuable knowledge in the space that you've garnered from your work in the space. So please consider participating in these Hangouts. Don't be afraid to speak up if you have something that you think is important for people to know, because everybody here has value propositions. And with that said, please also consider that one of your value propositions is to be able to share these and let people know that we've been doing these since the very beginning. And there really aren't many places that can say that. So with that said, please consider how you can participate, consider how you can help the people who are joining up here, and let's create synergy and continue showing people in an open and transparent way that BitShares is a very big ecosystem, and they usually just see the tip of the iceberg, and there's a lot more below the surface if they only look. With that said, have a good one, guys, and we'll see you next Friday. I look forward to giving you some tokens, and I appreciate all your hard work. Did I say Friday again? Saturdays. I'm sorry, I've been doing it for so many years. Damn it. Get me cussing on here. Get me cussing and saying damn it. Throwing something. All right, we'll start up here in a little bit. Fridays. every Friday, right? For the past, years? For years, but not now, man. It is a Saturday. Jesus.
Well, it's Friday somewhere.